Welcome to Forging Flame, a podcast all about the creative process where we talk with all types of creative people. My name is Ryan Selleck.
And I'm Nick Hinton.
And today we have Joey Turner and Baby Nick.
What up, y'all?
How you doing?
We're doing well. How are you guys?
Doing very well. Thank you for inviting us over this evening and making this thing happen a little later than anticipated.
That's all right. We got no better place to be. Don't tell my wife and kids that, but the kids should be in bed or their asses are in trouble. I guess it's probably also worth saying that.
And to that I say, indeed.
We should also go ahead and say from the top that Baby Nick is almost kind of in a pseudo Silent Bob role for this episode, just because these two fellows are sharing a microphone. So
that's right.
We'll make sure that he can get on there though.
We actually were not planning on this podcast today. We had a different guest drop out last minute, and then Joey kindly enough made it down here very last minute to be on the show. And I had Joey down as a potential guest because he's starting a potential.
Only if somebody cancels, we got Joey as a backup. Okay, no big deal.
Well, thankfully, Joey is very gracious with his time, being the potential guest.
I love it.
No, he's been on the list because he's starting a very ambitious project, and he's basically looking to network with different types of creatives and put people in the right seats. That's kind of what I got out of it. You were kind of cryptic in when you were putting out like exactly what you're doing, but you're starting something called Dojo Ink, and between you and Baby Nick, Mellow and Yellow. Can you tell us about those projects?
Yeah, so Mellow and Yellow is a podcast that we're working on presently, and so we're working through our technical difficulties and learning a few things as we go. And you guys have been very gracious already this evening in helping us in our process, in our creative process. Dojo Ink is it is a creative entity that I'm, and that's why it's such an ambitious project and why I'm recruiting and. I consider myself a creative entity, and therefore I am Dojo Ink. And I also use that as a pseudonym as I write poems. And the bigger part that I'm recruiting for is creative stories. Mm-hmm. So I've really wanted to delve into graphic novels, comics, any of that, just writing in general, and then also some nonfiction stuff as well.
Okay, cool.
So I'm looking for artists, especially right now, artists. Whatever your drawing style is, I'm just looking for people who are ambitious as well and creative, and who are wanting to free themselves with their own creativity. As I believe that we have gifts within ourselves that we don't have to do this grind out here. It's a trick, man. The veil has been lifted for me.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of people are definitely starting to wake up to the fact that most of the 9-to-5 shit people are dealing with is sometimes, depending on your life circumstances, like completely unsustainable. For one, like I got 3 kids. I got a wife. The kids are like doing school at home now, so my wife can't work, and like a $40,000 a year job ain't gonna cut it, right?
Absolutely not in today. Bare minimum at best.
And not only that, but like if you have, which most of us do, if you have any bit of that like creative spark within yourself, you are probably gonna feel a little bit like soul crushed at the end of the day when you got your corporate overlords breathing down your neck. You know, maybe somebody's got a boot on it. You know, like
absolutely.
You know, there's a
the politics within the corporate world it's tough for me. I kind of don't have a censor, or I choose not to censor myself. I'm not sure which one. So it's tough. It's difficult to trust. There's a lot of trolls out here in the real world, online. No matter where you go, it's people looking for those opportunities for drama. It's the Real Housewives drama effect.
I know very, very well what you mean, having worked in an office setting with 2,000 people before, where like you go in and it's like basically like a call center, just a giant playpen full of like hundreds of people like in a single space. Yeah. And you're so like close together that, you know, you might be able to develop some really, really good friendships or whatever out of that. But then also you do have that wild card thing where, you know, you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, or like you leave a note in a phone call in a customer service interaction that somebody else doesn't like. And then, you know, there's a million different things, you know.
And my problem is I'm cool with everybody. So, and that puts me in a false sense of comfort. And, you know, and then all of a sudden things aren't cool, and then everything gets used against you. You know what I'm saying? I hate that. So it's tough. It's tough for me to trust in that regard, and in the workplace. So,
and those companies, they need to run like that. They have to have they have to be a oiled machine, and they gotta chug along. And because of that, they have to have standards of, you know, of employee conduct and stuff.
Right.
But that's always been the thing that like bothered me. Like, I don't know if we were saying this off air or on a podcast. I think I'm living too much on the podcast now.
That's why I say just record everything, all the conversations.
Yeah,
you might as well.
And we're going to get into that too. That's something that I want to talk about. I'm writing a note here because I have some advice for you guys, and I think other people would get a lot out of this too. So
beautiful. Thank you.
So
I look forward to it.
The corporate world, the work itself never bothered me. It's like I can show up and I can work like a machine, and I'm cool with most things. But what bothered me is kind of the hollow pretentiousness of everything, because like having to,
you got to wear your mask.
Got to wear
literally
your mask,
now,
you know?
But figuratively, that mask pains me.
Yeah, it kills me
It's a
too.
suppression of all of the creativity, and it is. It's soul crushing, and for that reason alone, and I'm trying to free myself of that. But there's so many people in that trap, and everywhere I go, I'm meeting people like this young man. They have ambition, but they don't know how to go get it. And to be honest, I don't either. I say all the time, I am not afraid to fail, because I have failed over and over and over again. I've been at the bottom, but success is a kind of a scary thing for me. There's a lot of pressure that comes along with maintaining success and keeping things like this alive, and maintaining the relationships and friendships and the people that attach themselves along the way. But I'm actively looking for these people, and it's not hard. Part of my creative process and my recruiting process is I ask a simple question: what is your passion in life? And it's quite fascinating. People love to talk. If they have something passionate to talk about, they're gonna talk. And I love hearing these stories, and it fuels my creative process. Ideas, like, you know, there's tons of things that just stem from stimulating conversations. Mm-hmm. And I actively engage in people's interests. Now, the interesting thing is, however, I'm not often asked the question in return.
Sure.
You know, he got to witness one evening. There were 4 people, and I went around the room, gave everybody their turn. What's your passion? They talked about it. And you also see a distinct change in people when you ask that question. They light up. You're interested in me, or they're like, I don't even know I don't know what my passion in life is. I don't know that anybody's ever asked me this question. Didn't know I was supposed to be passionate. Jesus, my cats. You know, silly answers like that are often the thing. But when somebody's passionate about something, they give it to you. So I receive it, and it's interesting. But like I said, it's not often returned. So out of these 4 people, not a one of them returned the question, and that is my expectation, because when you get somebody in that mindset, they're thinking about themselves. So that's a 360 degree turn, or 180 turn, to flip back to you now, to now be thinking about you. But it's nice. I pose the question because those people who will ask in return, I usually enjoy those people more often, because I get an opportunity as well to talk about Dojo Ink. And I'll take that moment now to, I am a proud dyslexic, and that is also a big part of what I'm doing. And it's at the core of everything, my philosophy in life, the backwards way. But I'm actively seeking dyslexics as well. They are, I believe, dyslexia is the disease of geniuses, and they're vastly underutilized, and not only underutilized, but crushed, just devastated. So,
yeah, I mean, any opportunity to highlight what is commonly perceived as weakness or flaw in a person, and bring to light the potential benefits of that. Because I mean, dyslexia or autism or whatever, I mean, there are loads of potential gifts that are attached to both, right?
Absolutely.
Like
in different ways.
Right.
And it's important to understand those different ways and how, and once we understand that, we will be able to easily see how these people within especially our workplaces, they're not utilized to their highest potential. And that's when it becomes definitely soul crushing, because for myself within the workplace, it's so easy to identify these issues, and a lot of it is like everything, it's communication. There's such a terrible communication, and it just leads to a lot of shenanigans and people not being trained, especially appropriately, and then they're held accountable to some shenanigans.
Well, and that shit all starts in school too, right? Like, and luckily there are people who are actively attempting to change the way that education is available to people. And I mean, it's very small and grassroots right now, but who knows what the education system looks like, especially, given all the shit that we're dealing with now.
Absolutely.
5-10 years from now, there might be a lot more kind of like open form education available. Our good friend Jessica is working on something like that right now.
Yeah, Jessica Heckel, her project's called Tribe of Crow, and she's starting something like that, basically grassroots.
That. Tribe of Crow, I love it.
And it's grassroots. It's in Eugene, Oregon, and she's giving it a go at it. She got approved for her building and everything.
Yeah, nice.
It's happening. It's going on right now.
Awesome.
And she's going to be on the podcast pretty soon talking about that. But her and I had a lengthy discussion about that. This is something I've been thinking about for a long time. Basically, the education system right now, it's set up and it's designed specifically for the Industrial Revolution. I mean, think about that.
Absolutely.
Think about
It's
that.
a direct result of the Industrial Revolution.
And it did its job, because the Industrial Revolution needed like workers to be in their place, like even everything down to like the school bell that goes on every morning and the structure of everything. It's like
it's a conditioning for entering into this slavery.
Yeah, and
pretty much. Yeah,
it's forcing everybody into that box.
Absolutely.
Whereas the future needs to start meeting people on their levels. If you're going to realize the full potential of the individual, you need to be like, hey, do you work better in the morning or do you work better in the evening?
But not just the individual, but for the whole.
Right.
Because we're squashing these people out of the system and making them outcasts. And then now we're left with what? A bunch of linear fucking thinking people that are running every fucking thing.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm over it.
Yeah.
Now on that note too, the other interesting thing about dyslexics is like half of all self-made millionaires and entrepreneurs are dyslexics. And I believe that adversity is absolutely necessary. That's part of the creative process as well. Right. So adversity is necessary. I just don't believe that it has to be so fucking adverse. The school system is absurd. It's not set up for people like me. It's because I don't read information fast enough. I don't absorb information through text. And when I'm limited to just the text, lost, bro.
Right.
I don't get to receive that information, or I'm definitely not going to test well on it. However, whatever you give me in class, I just pay attention, and I'm able to take all of that in, and I just build my own associations for shit. But man, we're squashing these people because we're sending them into this slavery, and we rebel against that shit, especially if that's what you're leaving us to. And oftentimes it's really, I just was fucking bored in class. So I just fucking, I was the class clown. I'm like, I got it.
We're lucky in some regard, right? And we kind of got into this in our last episode with Ryan and Brewer. The gig economy, right? The ability for people to go and work just like 2 side hustles instead of one primary 9 to 5, and open up their schedule to truly like map their lives around what they're passionate about. I mean, it's a scary thing for a lot of people.
You got to know what your passion is first.
Yeah, for sure. But like freeing your mind is kind of the first step there.
for me, it wasn't so much about myself, but my significant other, it's hard for her because we're conditioned for this mindset that you got the 9 to 5 is stability. It's stability,
Right.
stability. And being a creative, there's no stability. And I don't have necessarily an income per se, but I believe in myself. And I believe that the people around me will fall into place as they need to. And I'm building.
Yeah. It's definitely tough, especially, you know, you got a significant other, you got kids involved. It's
absolutely, yeah.
It's
and
hard to convince.
I have 2 young sons, and I'm a stay-at-home dad. I stay at home during the day, and I purposefully maneuvered myself as such because I needed to be a part of their day-to-day so that their creativity doesn't get squashed.
It's amazing.
Because the environment, the school system, it's not set up for creatives necessarily. That shit's been cut out, so it's all about routinization, and you're left to the parents to encourage the creative. And that's important. We as parents, we need to foster that, but it's easy to grow up in an environment that does not foster the arts. It says this is fun, but it's not real. It's not a real job. You YouTuber? No, it's not. Do math. Baby Nick, do your fucking math, bro.
Do your algebra.
Become a doctor, become a lawyer.
Exactly.
Hate your fucking life.
Algebra was not my friend.
Take a bunch of pills and try not to jump off of something high.
And thank you for bringing up the pills. And that's another thing. As a proud dyslexic, I have to bring awareness to what we're doing to these kids. We have an opioid crisis in our country, and it starts in the school system. I'm talking like people that I've been medicated. I've been on Ritalin or Adderall since I was in kindergarten. And I understand because my sons are the evidence as to why we are medicating these kids so heavily because these motherfuckers are crazy. I lose my mind. Being a stay-at-home dad is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But yeah, man, it's crazy. So I understand why there's so much medication that's happening, but these parents are not of the understanding of what they're setting themselves up for, and it doesn't allow for the development of the nervous system properly, I believe. And then you're in a constant state of needing something to stimulate internally, and then you're left seeking stimulation.
Yeah. It's a strong theory for sure.
Indeed, man, it breaks my heart to be honest.
Yeah.
So, and that's why it's my passion.
Mm-hmm. Like
I don't want my sons to grow up in that world.
I've got 3 little girls, and they're all.
I'm sorry. Good luck with that, bro.
No,
I asked for sons because I said I can't do any girls. No more women.
I'm definitely lucky in that they're unique personalities, all of them, and they don't necessarily fall into any sort of like conventional build that I've experienced at least, and just trying
only if you box them into it.
Right, exactly. And I've done what I can to try and nourish all of those unique and explorative and like just the shit that makes them crazy, right? It's like try and minimize the amount of sugar they're taking in, try and minimize, like, don't allow things like caffeine before their brains and shit are fully developed.
Right.
And guess what? My kids don't act like crazy lunatics most of the time, and sure as hell not like anybody else's kids that are ever around. Like, why the fuck did you give that 6-year-old a full can of Coke? Like, what is wrong with your
man?
Like, come on, man.
See
like,
these
no wonder
kids
he's
at
acting like an asshole.
These
right
little
now.
league baseball fields, and they're letting these little kids buy Red Bulls and shit.
Oh yeah,
and they're just going back for like their heart's gonna explode.
Yeah. Or they're just at least going to be the worst human being possible to deal with.
We're ruining ourselves out here. It's crazy. Obesity, we're not ready for the famine to come. We're not ready.
I feel like there might be parents that listen that do things like give their children caffeinated soda at a young age, and they're going to be pissed off for feeling like they're being judged. But I guess on some level, I got to come clean to the fact that I'm kind of judging them for it, right? Like, I mean, like, I get it. It's hard. And like, it's hard to say no to a kid who's like fucking relentless, especially if you're like very dead set against like physically abusing them, right? Like,
I'm not necessarily against that.
Well,
It's necessary.
Yeah, I have a hard time with like,
You got girls, man.
yeah, you know, that the physical punishment. No,
my
thank
sons,
you.
that doesn't even work either. They're like, "Ah." I'll do it again immediately. What just happened?
The hammer came down is what happened. Yeah, I'm sure it would be a different story if I had a bunch of crazy little boys running around. But
Bro, I love it. To be honest, I got exactly what I asked for. So be careful what you ask for, what you wish for. I asked the universe. They gave me my 2 sons, and they fill me up. But they can drive you insane. Like I said, staying at home with them throughout the day and being responsible for the discipline aspect. That's why I wanted to stay home. I wanted to be a part of that discipline and making sure that they pick up their toys because mommy's a cleaner and she wants it done now. And now means I'm going to do it. So I'll just clean it up to get it done. And then we're left with a bunch of kids who don't know how to pick up after themselves or do anything for themselves.
lack of personal accountability.
Absolutely. So it has been paramount to me to be home and part of their day to day. So they're 4 and 2, 3 on the equinox, the fall equinox, and hellions. It's their job. They are the epitome of the backwards way, and they fight everything. Oppositional defiance disorder comes along with dyslexia, ADHD. It's all that's the whole spectrum, and it is intense. And I even being aware of it, it's still difficult.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Because to be honest, you have to discipline yourself, and that's the most difficult part. Mm-hmm. I have a hard time. I'm in a constant state of having to be responsible for myself and checking my action. But to that point, I believe part of the creative process, I speak harshly to my sons. I do not censor myself around them because they need to learn the language. I believe my thing is when they say fuck, I don't bring any attention to it. I don't tell them not to say it. I don't say it's a bad word per se. But my significant, their mother will correct them. She'll be like, don't say that. And I'll be like, don't tell them not to say it. If you're not going to censor yourself, then don't try to censor them. Instead, just give them more words, build their vocabulary. Don't say suck or fuck, say something else. Freak.
Sure.
I don't know, whatever word we want to create association different from that. My oldest son, my 4-year-old, he keeps wanting to say, he says, I don't know where he got it from. He says, you big pussy daddy. And I'm like, what the? I'm like, shit, I don't even know what else to tell him now.
Damn.
She was like, I know. He was like, just tell him silly. And I was like, yeah, that's a good one. I'll just, don't say pussy, son. Say silly. Now he's going to have this fucked up association later in life. And you're silly as out.
You over there with your silly flapping in the breeze? Ooh, that looks like some wet ass silly. Oh, that's a callback. Ryan and I have a really good friend who has a great story about that with his son. He's got what is he, 3 or 4?
I think he's just about 4 now.
Yeah, just turned 4. Well, his son, they've got kind of a similar policy with language where, there's not necessarily any such thing as a bad word, right? But there are certain words that you probably shouldn't say around grandmother because she's going to be upset.
And that is exactly why I don't censor them, because they need to learn that there are rules in different places.
Right, exactly. Right. So the way that he dealt with this was beautiful, because he, at one point, his son, appropriately for the circumstance, said,
the context,
damn it.
Yeah.
And damn it was a thing for a while. And so we broke it down for him and said, maybe don't say that around grandma or grandpa, but in the right circumstance, that's the appropriate word to use.
You used it correctly. Absolutely.
And so his solution as a 3 or 4 year old child said, well, can I say BAMs? And he said, yeah, you can say BAMs. And so now that's his go-to. And so the two of them, they know what BAMs means, but nobody else knows what BAMs means.
Yeah, see, excellent parenting.
Yeah, and it effectively addressed the problem without censoring them.
Without any anger or frustration or saying that you're wrong.
Yeah,
right.
And he explained it to him
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Normally parents would be like, shut the fuck up.
Yep.
Don't say that, you know,
because I said so.
Exactly.
Right.
Like you're putting down that authoritarian boot when you don't need to. So when it comes time that you really need to put down that authoritarian boot, like for their own safety, then they're like, what the fuck you don't know? What the fuck you know? Like you were telling me not to say damn. Like now you're telling me not to, you know, do this thing over here, whatever
Boy
it is.
who cried wolf type shit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But it's probably a good policy to reserve that boot for when you need it. But I'm not a father at all, so don't take my advice for it.
No, I believe it's necessary to discuss these things. And we actually just last night were discussing. We'll also put out another podcast. I want to do one just on the parenting because we are two different generations. So I'm 37. Baby Nick is. You care if everybody? Baby Nick is 20, and. So we have this generational dynamic, and it's important for me to plug into this generation because they're going to be my son's teachers and so on and so forth, right?
Oh yeah.
And to understand what they're going to be, who and the type of people they're going to be led by is important to know. So and to understand, but. I also believe in passing on the micro nuggets of knowledge that I do have in preparation, because someday you have the potential to be a father, and you have the potential to be a father. The more we discuss these things, even before it, preferential experience is necessary. Being experientially prepared in your mind is important. Before I had my sons, Heather and I, we spent a lot of time, Heather's my significant other, we spent a lot of time just having conversations about what we would do. And we didn't even want to be parents, but we got presented with some situations from some family members trying to deal with that teenage rebellion, right? So it put us in a lot of conversations talking about why that was happening, the root causes. And a lot of it starts early in the window that our children are in now.
Man. It's a deep and upsetting topic of conversation overall, for sure, man. But that's where it starts. Hopefully, by the time our children enter the workforce, right? Like, hopefully, things have shifted a bit. But thankfully, we are in a place where there is more possibility. And more people are trying to create more possibility and more opportunity. Yeah. And people are, like, especially younger generations, where in many cases, some of these kids nowadays are getting more fortified in their own, like, resolve, their own like idea of self in some regards. And, are making decisions to get the fuck out of the standard system and just go and do some other shit. And we are seeing a lot of young kids do a lot of really impressive things these days.
I firmly believe that we do not give children, especially at the age of our children now, 2 and 4, even 1, we don't give them enough credit for what they're capable of knowing, what they understand, the context they're able to pick up on things, the energy that they feel. And it's like when parents are fighting or arguing or even loving and so on and so forth, we don't give them enough credit, man. And we're doing a lot of damage in these early times that is difficult to correct.
Yeah. Correcting behavior that is most likely attributed to just the way the individual human being, even though they're a child, but behavior that's linked to just the way that their wheels turn, the way that they process information, whether or not it's, standard, or whether or not, like, the numbers or letters get jumbled a little bit when they're trying to process it, or whether or not they can, see all of the detail or color or whatever. Yeah. I mean,
but that's punishing. You have to give them more words, develop their vocabulary as early as possible, because it allows them to understand bigger concepts. And the bigger the concept they can understand, they develop these associations and they just build from it. And it's a beautiful thing.
I don't know what the solution is, right? Like, in terms of, what is the magical adaptable tool that, like, fits every child's or human being's needs or whatever.
As every parent says, they didn't come with a manual per se, right. So it takes, that's where the creativity comes into play, the creative process. Because when you have kids, if you're not a creative person, they will suffer for it, for the simple fact, like, I feel oftentimes we punish our kids in times when it's unnecessary and because of a lack of creativity. So just trying to come up with different ways to, like you did with the words, it's important. But I was trying to develop my oldest son, he still is too comfortable pissing himself, because when he gets really into something, his attention, he gets so hyper focused, like he just won't stop. Now, poop, good. Pee, however, he's just comfortable with it. And so I tried to get creative with him, and I was just like, he loves garbage trucks. And it's his favorite thing. I was like, listen, buddy, your pee is your body's trash. It's your body's garbage. And you got to make sure that you put your pee in the potty hopper. The garbage truck is like, I mean, the toilet is like the garbage truck, and it has like a hopper. That's the bowl. So you've got to put all the trash into the hopper, which is like the top part of the garbage truck. And then when you flush it, it's like it gets compressed into the back of the garbage truck. So it did trigger an association for him, and it was very interesting because I watched it happen, because he was like, his eyes just started going around. He was like, oh, it's quite fascinating.
The wheels started turning.
Yeah, absolutely, literally. Yeah. It is like a garbage truck, Dad. Pee is trash.
Brain explosion. I love it.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But like I said, that creativity is necessary in order to overcome problems. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like absolutely. You need to foster those things. You need to nurture that stuff, and
it just makes it more fun too.
Oh, it
makes the learning easier.
But you also have to like test the shit out of them.
They
like,
test the shit out of you.
Well, for sure. But I mean, you gotta like push the limits of their understanding.
Absolutely.
You know, like I love, one of my favorite things to do is like exposing my kids to really, really strange videos on the internet, like not stuff that's like inappropriate by any means, but just like stuff that
come here, kids, watch this. This is Momo.
Like stuff that as an adult you'd look at it and be like, what the fuck am I watching right now? You know,
this motherfucker shows me all kind of. I'm like, what the are you making me witness right now?
Doing the hand thing again?
Did you show them the hand thing?
Oh, I've made them watch the hand thing dozens of times.
Nice.
It's a good one. If you haven't seen
The
it,
hand thing.
hand thing.
Duly noted.
Called the hand thing.
Watch it twice in a row.
Yep. Shay, who's the
Shay St. John?
I'm surprised you remember that. Yeah, Shay St. John.
What are you talking about? Shay St. John introduced me to the Hollywood drip drop diet.
Yep.
Drip drop diet. 2 drops, 2 pounds. Found it under the sink.
I'm unawares.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Self-imposed ignorance.
You guys know if these diet drops are still good?
I'm feeling sick. So it's this weird thing.
I think it's working.
So Shay St. John.
Yeah.
I guess it was some guy out west who had a drinking problem, and he liked making these weird films about a character. Can you elaborate on the character a little bit?
Yeah, and I think you're kind of underselling the drinking problem.
Oh, okay.
It very much seemed like the drinking problem was either related to or inciting some level of psychosis based on the videos, because you can tell that the person who made those is pretty unwell in a lot of ways. This guy, by the way, later passed away because of his alcoholism. But yeah, it's like a character.
You're showing this to your children.
Oh yeah, of course. Absolutely. Well, I mean, the drinking problem isn't ever discussed. It's all, weird little skits or whatever. But apparently she was an actress or a model, Shay St. John, and she was maimed, like horribly disfigured in an accident of some sort, and wears a mask. And really it's just this guy like in a mask, but it's like an odd mix of this one human being in particular, whoever the guy is behind Shay St. John, and odd plastic parts. Like he uses Shay has
Barbie
like
parts,
basically like larger Barbie, like mannequin arms.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And it's all disturbing in every way
and unsettling.
The film of the unsettling.
I don't know what's worse. I Feel Fantastic or Shay St. John.
Those are both equally wonderful in my opinion. But dude, Dan keeps sending me weird shit. Like he's got all the weird YouTube channels all mapped out, and he's just constantly sending me stuff. And
Feel free to forward those along.
I will.
Prepare yourself.
You asked for it.
Oh, I can't wait. Should we? I don't know if we should share any of that stuff with our listeners, though. Should we? Should we smack them in the face with some hand thing, or?
I've been doing this for 24/7. You've been doing the hand thing all day? Heard you were. Jordan told me you had been doing it on a sleeping bag earlier.
Just go ahead and put your.
We'll just leave it up to them. They can search it themselves.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and put your
YouTube
search history on
hand
the
thing.
screen.
Oh no, that's not happening. No. But YouTube hand thing, and then YouTube
hand thing.
I feel fantastic.
You used to live with Ryan for a little while, and my bedroom was like right off of his office, and it was a big old like 1920s or 30s house, and with like giant air ducts, so like huge, obnoxiously large. Like a small child could easily pass from one room to another through these ducts, and he would be in his office working and cue up the I Feel Fantastic video on his phone and put it in this duct, which was right next to my bed. And I would wake up in really, really strange ways.
I don't recall this at all, but that sounds like something I would do.
Well, fuck you for that, Ryan.
It sounds exactly like something you would do.
Yeah, I felt fantastic. So.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. So tell us about. Did we even get into Mellow and Yellow? Did you guys describe that?
No,
What's
we
that
haven't.
all about?
Mellow and Yellow was that was our first podcast idea together. That we were having a lot of like little fires in his backyard, so we would just sit around and he was just talking about how he wanted to have a podcast, like where we would just sit and bullshit. We just wanted to try to talk about whatever and have fun, be silly, and and then but ultimately we've just gotten into like deep conversations about shit. Some like when we first tried to do like our first episode, he was very curious about the Epstein shenanigans, right? Okay. So we were kind of did some research, watched some stuff, and then we were going to talk about it. So we were just talking about like the sexual abuse, and then we just got on to deep like personal conversations and stuff. So I think that's very important. So, but we also have aimed now to lighten up a little bit. We went in hard. It was a little, but like I said, I believe it's necessary. It's kind of part of that same thing we were talking about before, these different generational things and stuff. So, but
you're good.
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add.
Yeah. So, like I said, so we set out to kind of discuss the Epstein stuff that's going on now and how it's broken the matrix, and the rampant sexual abuse that's going on and that's happening in our world is it's atrocious. It also breaks my heart, and it's
fucked.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that recently because I've started a meditation practice that has gotten me. I call it a meditation practice because calling it an occult magical ritual is a little weird. So
I disagree.
But I've started this, and the way that I think about it is it's like a prayer, but it's basically a scientific way of looking at mysticism, because you're not necessarily believing anything that's happening.
Yeah, I believe that I am a bridge of that. I'm a big neural nerd, so I'm intrigued. But bridging those two things is the spiritual world and the science world. Absolutely imperative.
Yeah, and so it's let's call it a prayer that has chants and gestures and stuff, and it's a little fucking weird, and I'm pretty sure my roommates think I'm insane, but
hey, do you, man?
So this has got me in it's got me really sensitive to like shifts in energy, like things that you would kind of like pick up subconsciously, and sometimes you just kind of know, but like it's much more, it's more prominent now. And one of the ways I experienced that was a few weeks ago. I was hanging out at my brother Nick's house, and I had both of my nieces, one under each arm, and I was just kind of zoning out. And then like I just felt their energy radiating. They were just like two little suns, man. I could feel their love. They were both kind of nuzzled up to me, and it freaked me out. I was not ready to like, whoa, what is this? And then of course I got to thinking like, holy shit, what if there's like something to this, and like this weird fucking like pedophile cult that they're doing some kind of weird fucking ritual with little kids.
Adrenochrome, man.
It's
Like basically doing
Adrenochrome.
some weird otherworldly shit, and it's just my mind went down like a whole rabbit hole, and I'm like, Nick, which way's east? He's like, what, you got to pray? I'm like, yeah.
So now take that feeling and then multiply that by like infinity, and that's how moms feel every moment of every day. It's
Right.
nuts, bro.
Yeah.
That thought process, but that leads to so much protection, I believe. Like we're trying to protect these kids so much, and I believe they're too sensitive. Our society already is way too sensitive, and we've got these people who are just looking for these opportunities to sue, the cancel culture, all of this stuff. It's out of control. But I think a large part of that is like we protect these kids too much. We don't let them fall down. You know, I watch my sons crash. You don't know. You're all right. You're all right, bro. And then, you know,
Weak sauce.
weak sauce.
Weak sauce.
Absolutely. I don't know.
It's hard to recover from like Epstein adrenochrome baby murder cult. Like I'm still like just kind of
Sex magic cult.
stuck on the bummer of that right now.
Yeah, that's what you get, man. Bringing me down.
That's what I do, guys.
But and that was the point too. We lighten that stuff up. It's hard, but it's also important to be able to talk about this stuff because it's too much. But I'll go back to the creative process and the creative side of things, like the dyslexia thing. I said it's the disease of genius earlier, and I feel like from sexual abuse right into geniuses again is a perfect transition. But it sounds very narcissistic or hokey, or that like I'm just trying to make something. But if you can look up, I don't know if you can pull up anything on this computer right now while we're recording.
I'm not touching this thing.
Understood. How
I'm scared.
technical difficulties.
Just be good, behave.
If you pull up a list of like famous dyslexics, all of the greatest minds in history are dyslexic. So I'm talking about Da Vinci, Einstein, Tesla, the Wright brothers, the founding fathers, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin. The list goes on and on. It's insane. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates,
Dojo Ink.
Dojo Ink, yeah.
But it's crazy. But we're squashing most of these kids, and oh, beautiful.
Let's see. Hold up.
I thought it was a notebook when he first opened it.
Yeah, I did too. I was like, well, he's about to look it up on his
Orlando Bloom.
Orlando. There's a ton of actors.
Richard Branson,
Absolutely.
Tom Cruise, Leonardo da Vinci, Walt Disney, Jim Carrey, Albert Einstein,
Jim
Whoopi
Carrey's one of my
Goldberg,
favorite of all time.
JFK,
Yeah, there's several presidents.
John Lennon. Yeah.
Man, it goes further and further. All the great innovators,
Good Diane.
and so we're taking this type of genius processing, and we're squashing it within our system, and it almost seems on purpose. It doesn't make sense. Like people believe that these people succeeded in spite of, but it's not. It's because of. And when we understand dyslexia as a neurotype and what that means, my theory is, and I'll say here, dyslexia is a pure right brain dominant processing. And I say that because if you look at neural images of the dyslexic brain when it's trying to read, so reading is a symptom. That's how it's largely diagnosed, right? These reading issues. But that's just a grain of sand on the beach of what it truly is, like in terms of a neurotype. So neural imaging. When the dyslexic brain is trying to read, or I'll start with the neurotypical brain, it processes reading in the left up here, and then also a part of the left front. And the dyslexic brain starts on the right. and that's why it takes so much longer and why things are backwards and so on and so forth. And there's so much more that's connected to all of that that's very intriguing, but understanding the just the right brain part and why these people are so innovative, but also it explains why they're so disorganized, because the autistic is the polar opposite of dyslexia. So if you look at autistics, they are very, what's the word I'm looking for here? They can become hyper-focused on a singular talent, for instance, and they will excel at that because they are local processors. They process just that one very specific thing very, 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 very well, better than probably any other neurotype. The dyslexic brain being the opposite of that, we are big picture thinkers, big picture processors, and that's where the innovation comes from. And why it's important to understand why that also limits us in a routinized school system or work system.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of have to, if you can't process information in a typical way, which is provided, something else has to take its place. So that's where I think a lot of this comes in, is because you can't read a book, you can't do these things normally, but then something else has to kind of take over. So instead of learning, you're spending more time. I'm not saying you, but like the general you, instead of learning, you're spending more time thinking, which that leads to innovation. And there's actually a great TED talk from an autistic kid that's like 13 years old and teaching calculus to
I bet he is.
to people in college, you know, and
you give it to them early enough, they'll master. And
yeah, and he made a point that I think it was Sir Isaac Newton, basically,
by the way,
couldn't continue whatever he was doing. I'm fucking destroying this, but couldn't continue whatever he was doing because of the Black Plague, I believe. So the Black Plague hit, so he had to stop what he was doing, stop learning, and he had to start thinking about what he was doing. So it led to his revolution in science.
Adversity is necessary.
Yeah.
Like I said, it just doesn't have to be so adverse all the time. And, but that's where the innovate, we're able to think, we stay outside of the box. So we're able to see solutions to things that people don't even know that there was a problem. Mm-hmm. And then we're also labeled as like system busters. So like if en masse, everybody came out as dyslexic and was like, hey, there'd be probably a lot of companies that might not necessarily want them because they'll come in and there's a better way of doing it. There's a more efficient way of doing it. My brain works on efficiencies. So if I see shortcuts, why is there so many steps, man? But also to your point and back to the energy point that you were talking about, I don't read books very well, but I read people very well. So that's the trade-off, right? Mm-hmm. So like you said, something else develops. And this right portion of the brain up here where the dyslexic brain is trying to read from, that's also where we process empathy from. And that makes us very susceptible to energy around us. Because I believe that we pick up on people's energy. We feel that with our skin receptors, and our all of this is just an extension of our brain. It's all feeding into our brain. This is just how we bring it in and understand what is happening around us.
Oh yeah.
And the dyslexic brain is very powerful, but it's also very susceptible. But that's why the best pairing is for a dyslexic is somebody who's autistic. Balance the strengths and weaknesses. And I've found that person for me, and she's amazing. She keeps me online. Nice. She constantly lets me know where the line is, where I'm supposed to be at.
My wife is spectacular, and she's a bit dyslexic. Maybe I'm on the spectrum. I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe we're
absolutely. Because now that it's a genius thing, you got to hop on the bandwagon.
I'm trying to. Yep. I'm signing up for all the. I'm definitely all those things that are the cool and beneficial things.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's why I talk about it. And when I meet people, I let them know I'm a proud dyslexic. And what it does, it opens them up because they see it as me. Oh, you're immediately flawed. And I can be comfortable around someone who's flawed. But
not flawed, just different.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But that's the common misconception in our society today. Yeah, and that's why the awareness of it is so important. And like I said, delve into that list more. It's insane.
Yeah.
And therefore I believe in myself. I want to bring more attention to this because there are young kids out here that they need to believe. They need to believe in themselves, and it's hard. It's hard in today's world to believe in yourself and to try to overcome the
Diamond Dallas Page.
GDP.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it really is impressive what, let's see, Muhammad Ali, Greg Louganis, Magic Johnson, Nolan Ryan.
I love Nolan Ryan.
Henry Ford. I mean, fuck Henry Ford.
So he innovated. Yeah. Well, so he's kind of created some of that slavery in that he is the one who innovated the fucking assembly line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but also used to hire goons to beat his employees.
Why not? That's when the dyslexic mind goes a little too wrong. Too much narcissism is things go sideways. But the powerful people controlling our world, they're fucking dyslexic as well. The money, the power and control. Like there's it's nuts. The Rockefellers. Who's the other ones? The Rothschilds. I think they're on the list too, bro. So if you want to be successful, find you a dyslexic, get that dyslexic and autistic person to keep them organized, and you can win at anything.
It's a lot of people.
And that's why I wanted to be able to come here, and I thank you for being able to just even these little nuggets of this awareness, absolutely imperative.
Yeah.
And getting the word out there. So I appreciate it. But that's why I'm recruiting dyslexics myself. If you are talented, if you draw, you paint, whatever your creative is, you write, because I got tons of stories that I've got I'm a big picture thinker, right? So I have universes, right? But I need to scale it down into the dialogue and all of the specifics of the actual story. And it's so big that it's a daunting task. But then I also I can't then devote time to as much time to the visual aspects, right? Mm-hmm. And then my hope is to the music. I need any kind of creative process, man. I'm in it because, like your friend, I'm a little different in that I'm a jack of all trades, and I hope to succeed enough that I can put myself in that Plymouth category myself. But there's so many things, like you said, your passion was hard to define because there's so many things, right? The same for me. All of this is my passion. I'm tackling it at every level I can, except for social media, because I don't fuck social media. Anti-social media productions coming at you with Mellow Yellow and a bunch of Dojo Ink shit.
All right. Well, let's get back to Dojo Ink for a little bit, because I was a little unclear on what specifically. You seem to focus on like illustrators that you're primarily looking for, illustrators and storytellers. What is the actual, like, is it a graphic novel? Is it a series of comics?
I have tons of ideas in all creative capacities, but my passion project, it's a story called Rising Sun, Rizingson. So, but I'm very passionate about the Japanese culture, which is why my hair is up. This is not a man bun. It is a top knot. Don't get it twisted. Don't get cut down. But that sense of honor, of Bushido, I fell in love with it. And I think it's easy for many people to fall in love with that type of mentality and that type of devout commitment to a cause and leadership. But anyway, I started because I watched a bunch of anime, anything I can get my hands on, samurai related movies, anime.
Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang. I delved into it and I was like, man, but I'm left. I haven't seen what I want to see yet. And then I was just like, well, we got to create it. And so I just started creating characters, and I ultimately created a universe surrounding these characters. And what it is, it's a, in the big picture, it's kind of like an origins of the universe, and it's about these characters that are dragons. It's also, so then it's a lot of origin stories, kind of spins on things that we have. So dragons, very specifically, these characters are dragons, but not the serpentine or reptilian sense. They are these very powerful, immortal-like figures who have the ability to kind of shapeshift and change. And they are what the legend of dragons are today is based on. These these beings were so powerful and so on and so forth. So as they interacted with humans and formed and shaped our world as it is today and manipulated things, kind of that shadow hand, if you would, giving rise to these different origins. So their legend grew, and then ultimately they became depicted as these serpentine beings and so on and so forth, godlike things in the Japanese lore, for instance. And then I'm just kind of taking all these different cultural origins. I love the Native American cultures, especially the Lakota people. They have a beautiful origin story to like the storms. My youngest son, his name is Raiden, which I told Heather when she presented this name to me. I said, first of all, I love this name. It's a Japanese name. It's the god of thunder. But everybody's going to be like, you named your son after Mortal Kombat? And I'm like, yes and no. It's the god of thunder.
I didn't not.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. But I said, just be prepared for that. But so we rolled with it. And in the Native American culture, their god of thunder it's a female being. Also, she actually is kind of transgender, if you would, which also very much fits in today's society. There's a male and female representation, but the female representation is the thunder goddess, and she is known as the Wakian. And the male representation is on Earth, and is a person in the tribe, and it was a very revered person, and they're known as the Heyoka. And if you've not heard that term, it means sacred clown or holy fool, something of that nature. They are
I love it.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. It's the most fascinating fucking archetype, also tied to dyslexia and creativity. And why the creativity is very important. It is extremely interesting. But the Heyoka was like the jester. So they were the clown of the tribe. They were highly, highly revered because you have to be chosen. In order to become the Heyoka, you either have dreams of the thunder being, and you're presented with these images, and you have to talk to an elder, and they decide that you've been chosen to become the Heyoka, or you physically get struck by lightning and survive. And that is an immediate sign that you are of the backwards way. And the origin story of how the Heyoka comes to being is very fascinating because the Wakian lives in the West. She has a big cedar teepee, and the cedar is very important, but it's open to the east, to the sunrise, so the door. 4 brothers come, they're creating the directions, north, south, east, and west. The first direction created is west, because west is creation. It's where the sun sets, it is the darkness, and the Native Americans believe that the darkness is creation itself. Everything, even the light, came from the darkness. So darkness is revered. The west is the first direction. The first brother goes in, enters into this giant cedar log teepee, goes straight to the far side, and is presented with a giant eye. Things get all wonky for him. Everything gets backwards then. He comes out, his clothes are backwards, his hair's in his face, everything. He's speaking backwards, saying goodbye, and so on and so forth when he's greeting his brothers. And he is the Heyoka. He is the backwards way. So everything that the Heyoka does within the tribe is to uplift the tribe. So in times of famine, the Heyoka would go around and they would talk about how full they were. Like, oh, I'm so full. And it would make the people laugh because laughter is the medicine of chaos. So they had to be very creative in how they uplifted the tribe. Now, why I loved it so much is because this contrarian jester role was revered by the elders. They were allowed to disrupt the rituals, and the elders allowed them to because and allowed them to bring in their humor and so on and so forth because it expanded the boundaries of the tribe, the laws of the tribe. So they actually listened and revered this character within the tribe, and we need that today. We have stand-up comedians, but they're not actually allowed and heard by our leaders in the stuff that we're talking about in our society today. So the Heyoka is of the highest order.
I'm for it. I'm all aboard. I'm into it.
Look that shit up.
Sacred clowns and permissible disruption.
Absolutely. How could you not be down for that, right?
Yeah.
And it's no surprise that it's also then tied to the dyslexia and stuff too, because they talk about being dyslexic or being born breech, all of these backwards things, and it's
sure being left-handed.
Left-handed, absolutely. Yeah. Left-handed is highly, highly a sign of dyslexia, because the right brain controls the left side.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird mirror image type shit, and how from all the brain scan stuff.
And that's
that I've
exactly
seen,
it's,
I shouldn't talk about this because
no, absolutely.
I'm
Mirroring
mostly pulling it out of
is
my ass,
absolutely important for me. It's also a passion of mine to discuss the act of mirroring. And in terms of parenting, since we were on that subject earlier, our children are our mirrors.
Oh.
They show you,
Are they ever?
They show you everything about your true self. They reflect to you with 100% authenticity, and you can't avoid it. But we try to ignore it. We try to beat it out of them or yell it out of them or whatever it is, but it is ourself.
It's probably why so many parents resent their kids too.
Absolutely
because
it
it's
is.
just like getting slapped in the face with your own bullshit
Every
day.
fucking day.
100%.
At every moment, every turn.
Value that shit. Like,
Man.
having kids has made me a better person just for that fact.
I am a greater man for sure. And man, yeah, because that is the purest form of creation. We are creators, and I say that we are our own gods because we have the ability to create life, but then we can create life up here. I've created universes, and as we've seen, there's tons of creativity that's happening all around us, and you can free yourself. I believe that wholly.
Just spill a little bit of that baby batter.
Exactly. The juice of life.
On that note, I'm about to go piss my pants. Hold on.
That's right. You can go ahead and
y'all keep it going.
You can relieve yourself of a little ball snot if you need to.
Whoa.
Hey, that's inappropriate. Ball boogers.
So,
But to your point, Ryan, I'm sorry.
you're good.
To your process, I greatly appreciate your platform, bro.
Yeah.
It is.
Thank you.
I believe
Thank
it's
you for
absolutely
being here.
necessary. My pleasure, bro. My pleasure. I was so excited once you reached out to me, and I was like, I gotta figure out how to make this happen. I was about to call into work. I was like, Heather's gonna be so mad at me. I was like, but I have to do it. But fortunately, it worked out, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's one of those things that I think is important in creativity sometimes, and it's something that I heard in a Tim Ferriss book, but read in a Tim Ferriss book, and that's scratching your own itch. Like if you have something that you're like, man, I wish this was a thing, and that's kind of how it started for me, because I became really interested in the creative process by not understanding my own and understanding like what works. Like I just wanted my brain works very logically. Like I need step by step by step by step, and then I can smash that shit.
That's that left brain process.
Exactly. Like I'm a very left brain heavy person. So
when I have the autism within your family, like with your nephew, for instance.
And I have a small measure of it myself, for sure. And like I've never been diagnosed, but I just kind of know.
Asperger's is a phenomenal thing.
Yeah.
I put Heather in that category. She's on that autistic end of things, but because she is a very highly logical, highly literal, left brain linear processor. She has to know all the rules up front. Yeah. And then like you said, then she can bang it out.
Yeah, exactly.
She needs finished products and so on and so forth. It's very, and she also lacks the ability to visualize like a room. Like we're about to move into a new place, and it's difficult for her to like visualize things like how it might fit into a room, look in the room. So she has to literally see it. Yeah. Or physically.
And I struggle with that too. But at the same time, I've had this.
I've kept my face so turned away
from
the camera.
No, you're good. That's fine. So that's been a struggle for me because I've always wanted to push myself in that direction, so I had to kind of reconcile like, okay, what's really working for me and what do I want and how do I kind of meet in the middle? But this was a result of just scratching my own itch, just wanting to learn more from other people and how they're seeing it and not finding a satisfying answer for that. Like I looked around for podcasts and I didn't find anything completely satisfying, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus because if you're making a thing cool, dude, I'm not going to shit on your thing, but there just wasn't anything satisfying. Like
that's how I felt about the samurai stuff. It wasn't that it wasn't satisfying, but there was something to be desired. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But this is also too for us about scratching an itch. When I first met him, he's like, I want to do a podcast, and he's like, you do a podcast. I was like, man, let's do it. Yeah. Like that's what I'm looking for people too. Like I want people who are ambitious and they're ready to. I've worked with a lot of creative people, but they're afraid to take the plunge. Yeah, and that's a real thing. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's difficult to get out of your own way. And that's absolutely imperative to the creative process. It was Joe Rogan and Post Malone. They were talking about that as well. And they were talking about, like, if I didn't have Post Malone was talking about, if I didn't have anything coursing through my veins except for blood, I don't know that I would have the ideas, the creativity. So there's something to be said about that too. And psychedelics are, I believe, definitely a part of the creative process on so many levels.
Can be.
Indeed it can. I don't condone any nefarious activities.
Don't get yourself in trouble. That's all.
Come on, Indiana, get yourself together.
Do your research. Understand what you're getting into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be responsible and respectful.
Be responsible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Or else get bitch slapped by your own ego nonsense.
Yeah.
And sometimes, by your significant other.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
That too.
She's my mirror.
The
Dumbass.
the best metaphor or the best analogy that I've heard as far as that goes was on a Joe Rogan episode where he had Maynard James Keenan on there and they were talking about it. And they were just like, prepare. If you're going to go on a hike, you should prepare. If you're going to go on a hike in Death Valley, you should prepare. And if you don't, Mother Nature is not going to give a shit. Mother Nature is not going to say, okay, well, since you think you're special, you're okay. No, Mother Nature is going to just fuck you up.
Absolutely. And that made me think of Lil Wayne, my favorite rapper. He recently he went through a huge shift, a giant transition, and he became a skater dude. So he started skateboarding, and it was a beautiful story. And I was like, man, it's so weird, like just a strange thing to get into. But what he started talking about, he was just like, man, I would be sitting and just watching TV, like when I'd be out on the road and stuff. And he was just like, man, I think he was just talking about. It was about his creative process, but nothing was getting into him. But so he started watching like skating, like X Games or something. So he got interested in it, and he's like, man, I'm going to try it out. So when he started skateboarding, what he said about it was, he said, he's like, I was so happy to find skateboarding because when you're on the board, he's like, the board will let you know if you stray up here. So it was a thing that kept his mind. It turned off everything else, and he had to be 100% focused on what he was doing. Otherwise, like I said, the board is going to let you know when you're not paying attention and you're going to fall off. Just like you said, nature's going to gobble you up.
It's a good tool for flow states too, to have some kind of outlet
flow state
in that way.
I'm working on trying to hone and control my flow state. I don't like driving because that is such an automatic thing for me that if I'm not singing to the music, my mind will stray, and all of a sudden I'll go into this flow state of thought processing, and then I won't have any idea where I'm at. I'll, like you said, I'll go somewhere else, and then I'll look up and I'm like, oh, did I miss I don't have any idea. I don't know how long I've been driving like this. Yeah. Like, it's scary, but you're on you're on autopilot, right? Because you've done this so many times.
Just wormhole.
It scares me. So, but I've had some success being able to hone that in. I went through this like 3-week period where, like, as my friend, but he said, your words are like water, bro. And I was like, because it was just, I just had this tremendous output of just poems that I was writing, and just, it was a beautiful thing. And yeah, I hope to be able to hone that more as well. Any experience flow state with either of you?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Elaborate, please.
Well, I mean, we've both got
100% of my interest.
The jujitsu thing in common.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, getting it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not paying attention, if you're not 100% present, you're gonna get your ass choked out or something.
Well, but there's also like, once you hit a certain point of proficiency, and I don't know. I've definitely like lost a few steps, like with being away from it for so long. But there's a point where you almost naturally kind of shut off the thought, and just exist in like the pure moment. And the thought becomes the action, so to speak, where it's just like a point, for me at least, it's a point of like pure wholeness, right? It's like the 0 to the 1, like it takes the 1 away and it's just the everything, right? So like, and I learned this very specifically through rolling with he's a black belt now, but was, I think, a purple when I first met him. A guy named Joel Bland, who's just one of the most badass motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. He's a
savage.
He's, I don't know, he's like maybe 5'5" and a monster, just a demon of a person, right?
But
in a
the
good way.
nicest
In a
guy
good way.
ever.
Oh yeah,
But
he's
the
a
nicest guy
sweetie
ever.
pie.
This guy can just rip you apart and do whatever he wants with your body. But he's like, yeah, just absolute sweetheart of a guy and just super real, down to earth.
Yep. Not going to pull any punches, but
Not at all.
In a role, especially when he's exclusively wanting to flow roll, you take all of the strength out of it and it becomes this almost like Tai Chi Chuan style, like flowy, very
intertwined,
liquidy, like I feel what you're doing and I'm like countering that in real time. And it's just like,
without the thought you get out of your own way.
Yeah, and so he kind of showed me that was possible without any words,
Beautiful.
just with his own motion and my like kind of energetic like feeling of his presence in there. And I later applied that in my first tournament as a blue belt. My very first round, I actually went up against a blind opponent.
Nice.
And
I would be scared of that person, I think.
I was kind of shitting my pants, right? Because I'm like, this guy actually has a really great record. Like, I don't know what to expect here. And we started out where we had, I feel like I talked about this on a previous episode.
It was on a previous episode, but that's okay. Go ahead.
No, but so we started out with grips, right? Because he was at a distinct disadvantage. Like if we didn't have contact starting out, like I'm just going to double leg him and he's not going to know, you know? So that we started out with grips and I could feel, and it wasn't a flow necessarily. It was definitely like, you know, going for the win, but I could feel that all of what he was doing, since he didn't have any eyesight at all, was purely based off of what he felt my body doing. So I almost had to like remove the mental processing of my visual input and focus exclusively on the feeling of the moment. And that was definitely a very flow state like experience there. But yeah, just, I don't know. It feels like magic.
And then you strangled him.
Oh, I strangled the shit out of him.
Oh, yeah, be careful with that mic.
Don't
please.
strangle the mic. Don't strangle the mic. But and then also I've done a lot of like hosting in the past for stuff like variety shows and burlesque shows and whatnot, and being in a pure moment where it's just me alone on a stage with a bar full of people, and I've got like some shit that I'm supposed to say about a performer, but like, I don't necessarily want to say just that. Like, I want to kind of say whatever comes to me, and it just kind of comes in real time. And then like you get this moment of feedback from the audience. Like they respond to what you say with hopefully laughs. And then that laugh fuels the next thing that comes out. And that's that same thing. It's the exact same thing, like how it feels energetically within me, but it's a totally different, it's not physical. It's just this. Yeah. So I love it.
Yeah, like and when I was especially had that flow state in the writing, it was like I believe inspiration is all around us at all times, and there'd just be like little moments or certain words that might hit me, and I'd be like, oh, that's a poem, and I wouldn't have any intention, but it would just, I'd write this title out or I might have an idea, and then words just fall into place.
Yeah.
It's weird. What about you, Ryan?
I think. I forget what the exact words are for it, but I think you kind of hit it on the head where it's, there's no separation between the action that you're taking and the thought that's producing it. Like they become one for it.
Synchronized.
Yeah. So I have a lot of experience with that in jiu-jitsu, but also a lot of experience with that in music.
Because Ryan's a bad motherfucker.
I do music.
You knocked anybody out yet?
Did I not?
Have you submitted anyone? Sorry, I've
submitted a lot of people, but I mean, have I choked anybody unconscious? Yeah, a couple.
Yeah, a couple. No big deal.
Including my buddy Nick Hinton.
Oh yeah,
we were doing.
How was it?
It was a good time.
Yeah, I can appreciate that.
Wasn't mad at it.
I can appreciate that.
We were doing a drill that frequently like has somebody strangled unconscious, and you're starting off with what's called a cross collar choke. So I have my hand on the lapel, my hand on the other side of the lapel, and usually got to fight for those grips. But in this particular drill, you start with your grips in that place, and then he says go. I start to strangle him, and he starts working on the defense that we just learned.
Trying to get out of it.
Trying to get out of it. And he was a little late on the draw, and then he started convulsing and snoring. I was a little scared.
I was committed to fighting all the way through. Zero taps.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Because that's a hard thing, I think, for to commit like that and to have that trust, though, too. That's absolutely, it's beautiful.
There are a few humans I trust on this planet more than Ryan Selleck.
You can say it. I love you, man.
I do love you, Ryan. He knows that.
Vulnerability is important.
That's what the show's all about.
Absolutely.
But as far as like flow states with music, I definitely notice that when playing in a band, and sometimes when I'm playing by myself.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
When somebody goes in, they're in another place.
Yeah. And
Lost.
especially with my old band, Dead Birds Adore Us, we locked into that all the time, and we just knew how to get on that wavelength together, and like we wouldn't even set out to play anything. We would just start making sounds,
just warm it up for
boom,
rehearsal.
It would just hit a wave, and I'm not even thinking about what I'm doing anymore. I'm just it's just happening, and I'm just observing it. And that's
an interesting way of putting it. I'm not actually doing. I'm observing myself.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, and if I start thinking about what's happening, or if I think about what you're thinking about what's happening, if I think like, oh man, can they hear my guitar, or is Noah's bass too loud in the audience? If I have a moment like that, I'll lose it. And
Absolutely.
I'm like, oh shit, I got to get back. Oh, all right, and then there's a little bit of an adjustment period where you kind of, it's like literally like riding a wave, and then you kind of fall off for a second, and you kind of have to find that.
Can you
groove
find
again.
it? Yeah.
And then you're back.
Fuck, I started thinking.
Exactly.
Your brain gets in your way.
Yeah, I'd love to fill you guys in on how I perceive that, because when you guys would rehearse and you would warm up for your rehearsals, that's like the most pure expression of musical flow that I've ever witnessed in my fucking life. And so it always started out like from the times I was lucky enough to sit in, it always started out as like somebody playing a little ditty, like some little riff or something that maybe they'd been working on, or just like Noah noodling around on the bass or whatever. And then someone else would jump in almost in response. And so starting out, when everyone got involved, it was kind of like they were communicating back and forth through their instruments. Mm-hmm. And then once they were all on the same page, like conversationally, then it became this fucking ball of like tangible energy that was just like consumed everything. And mind blowing in every possible way. Like I don't have a big enough vocabulary to describe just how incredible and intense like those moments like were. Just because they're all super talented guys, but they also each of them operate on a very atypical frequency that lent itself really, really well to making excellent music. So
it was a lot of fun. We had great chemistry together.
Yes.
Like we just knew what the other person was thinking.
Good chemicals.
Good chemicals.
We knew it was.
That's a band name.
Good chemicals. So what about you, Joey? Tell us about your experiences with flow state.
So as I described with the words, but my skateboard, like Lil Wayne, is singing. Like I sing to my sons, like bedtime and stuff like that. And if I'm not, singing is absolutely difficult for me, and it takes 100% of my attention to remember the lyrics, the pitch, melody, all of that stuff. And as soon as I start thinking, like I'll either go into a cycle where I'm starting to either repeat, or I'll just skip like a whole verse or something. I'm like, how did I get here so quickly? So like you said, I'm thinking again. And I was like, damn it. Yeah. So that is an interesting thing for me. So when I need to not think, I'll just sing to myself, and just to turn it off for a minute, just to go into a different mode to pull yourself out of that.
How do you, like, if you were like, let's say you're writing poetry, for example, have you ever had times where you felt like you've had writer's block?
Oh, absolutely. I've kind of been in that state now. I've kind of changed my mode. I've switched gears, and we've been working on this podcast and stuff. So my focus is a little different. So I really haven't been writing much over the last 3 weeks, for instance. And I've sat down to write a few little things, but that word flow is not. I'm not in that vibration right now. But I look forward to getting back into it because it's become my favorite outlet. So we're talking about the creative process and how I started writing poems in the first place was as a proud dyslexic. I start a whole bunch of shit. I don't finish very much. But it's also heart raising kids. I started writing because I needed to do something that I could start and finish today, now. So I started writing I just started putting down thoughts. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So it put me in this state. So, and I honestly, I credit my sons for it. Actually, to start, one of my best friends, his grandmother passed away, and it was like the first major. It's the first loss in his life in 30 years, right? So he got 30 years and lost the matriarch of their family, right? And I don't know. During that time, I just felt this wave of energy, this deep empathy for my friend and his loss for his family. I know a lot of them, and it just kind of inspired me to, I wrote some words, kind of aimed at him. And I was like, man, I kind of like that. And then I had this experience with my sons, and it changed me forever. I don't know how spiritual you talked about energy, feelings, and so on and so forth. But they put me on a wave. I don't know if we want to get into this. It might be a little lengthy. I don't know what kind of
go for it.
Jump in.
It's such a profound experience, man. And I've been chasing it ever since. And that's what's helped me try to push myself into these flow states, because what it was is we were taking on another. So I had my two sons, and they were both very young. I'm not even sure, 1.5 and like 6 months, something like that. I don't know. My youngest son wasn't holding his bottle yet. So, because that's an important part of the story. So we were supposed to be taking custody of another infant from within our extended family, bad situation. So we stepped in, and the day before he was to come, and this is, even these infants are very intuitive, I believe, because my thing was with my youngest son, I was like, man, I was working so hard to get him to hold his bottle, and he just wouldn't do it. He refused. So it's the day before we're supposed to take custody of this other infant, newborn. And I'm sitting there, I'm holding him, and I'm very stressed out, and I've got both of my sons, and then all of a sudden, my youngest, he just starts holding his bottle on his own. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening right now. It's like he knew that this big change is about to come tomorrow. And then my other youngest son, my oldest son, like, he's crying, so I got to pull him up into my lap. And there was an incident that morning where Heather had a migraine when she woke up, and my oldest son crawled up next to her, and she was like, just put your head on my head and, take mommy's headache away. And so she tells me this, right? And I had just gotten home from working at FedEx, and she's like, yeah, he took my headache away, I feel. And I was like, that's interesting. I was like, I just kind of brushed it off, just kind of discredited it, if you would. And then like an hour later, she forwards me an article from her friend who randomly sent it to her that morning. It was labeled "Children Who Heal People." And I was like, that's fucking weird. So then I read this thing, and it's talking about crystal children. And they have blue eyes and blonde hair, or like all these, I don't know, these different features. I don't know all of them offhand, but blue eyes was one of them, big blue eyes, and so on and so forth. My sons, they're Aryan Asians, if you don't know. They're blonde hair, blue eyed, little flat facers. And, but anyway, I know this is lengthy. I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay. So anyway, she was like, if you start feeling bad today, just put your head on Remy and my oldest son and see if it helps. And I was like, so that's what she told me before she went to work. Then she sends me the article. I read it, and I was like, very interesting. And then, so later that day, once he starts holding his bottle, my oldest son is crying. I'm trying to get him up into my lap and put him asleep. I said, just come here, buddy. Mom said it's okay. Because I had this fucking crazy ass migraine myself, because we were preparing for all of this, for this kid to come. And he gets up in my lap, and I start singing to him. I'm trying to calm him down. I sing this song, this Jamie Foxx song to put them to sleep. And in this moment, like, it hits me. These lyrics hit me, because it's about an angel and comes back to earth for some unfinished business, and that's his child, right? So the chorus is, heaven will never be the same, because the angel's gone. So I started thinking about this song, and it made me hyper emotional. So I start crying, and I'm very emotional in this moment. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm like, oh, I need to take my oldest son upstairs and lay him down before he falls all the way asleep on me, and I wake him up. So I laid my newborn down, and he's still holding his bottle. I'm like, that's fucking crazy. I take my oldest son upstairs, and I lay him down, and he's like immediately going to sleep on his right side of his face, and he's on my left side facing towards me. And I'm laying there for a second next to him, and I just start weeping. Like, I like the most uncontrollable tears of my life and to date. And then all of a sudden, I just felt something to my left, and I turned my head over on the pillow because I'm laying on my back. And when I did, he was like just staring through my left ear, and I turned, and we just locked eyes. And what happened next changed me forever. His eyes rolled up into his head, but not in a like seizure type of way, but they just went up and stayed, but where I couldn't see his iris and pupil. And I was like, that's weird. And then he looks at me and just immediately comes back and locks eyes with me. And then they roll up again. And then he just locks back eyes with me. And I was like, for the first time in my life, I felt like I was like seen, is what I can describe. Because I'm in this complete vulnerable emotional state. And my son, I can't break gaze from him. And all of a sudden, I am weeping and sobbing uncontrollably and laughing hysterically. And I am just in this, all of a sudden, this wave hits me, and it goes over my entire body. And I had been exhausted because I was working at FedEx from 2 a.m. I would leave at 8 so Heather could go to work. And then I watched my sons immediately. I was exhausted. And I felt this wave like go across over my whole body, and I want to feel it again. The only thing that I can describe it as is light. I felt light. There was no, every piece of tension, every pain. I just felt nothing. And for like 3 hours, I couldn't stop lying and crying and laughing. Lying, that's what I was doing. Absolutely. And then the interesting thing, I'm doing all this crying, and then all of a sudden he breaks the gaze and turns over to his left cheek, immediately falls asleep. And I'm laying there like, what the fuck is happening? And I'm like, and then all of a sudden, like a little bit later, he just pops up, and he's just staring at me with the biggest fucking smile on his face. And he just goes, cat. And then the cat walked in the door in the bedroom.
What the fuck?
I took him downstairs, and I went back downstairs. My 6-month-old is laying there just having his bottle. And I had to put Remy in the recliner on the other side of the room and remove myself from his presence to just calm down enough so that I could call Heather. And I was trying to explain. She was like, what is going on? Did you do something to the kids? And I'm like, why is that your first thought? I'm chasing it ever since. I know, but it profoundly changed me. And ever since then, we're kind of talking about like claircognizance and like this flow state, and these, Nikola Tesla talks about, he was a receiver and nothing more. That he was a receiver, that the information, his ideas, they were sent to him. I believe him, bro, because I started asking my son, because I was doing all this neuroscience research, just dyslexia stuff, like really delving deep into it. Like, so I started asking my sons at night when I was putting them in bed. I was like, all right, Daddy's looking for some answers to these things. And then I would go lay down and kind of meditate. I do a lot of meditating as well. I believe in the practice of meditating. And it would just start answers. I can't explain it. So that also ties then into that flow state and magical stuff. I don't know. I don't know. and that's where I'm at today.
We were having a very similar conversation about this, and that kind of started with my story earlier about my two nieces right here, and then he had a similar experience, which I think was
Talk about that at a different time.
slightly under the influence.
Yeah.
But it was a baby, and we started kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of just talking about that sort of idea that these children, they essentially come out of the universe and they have none of the conditioning that we have. They're completely vulnerable. They are wide open, and nothing has been shutting them down. Like, it's like this entire process of becoming a human being is like putting up those walls, and
The pipe is complete and intact.
yeah, to whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever that's
whatever
over
it
there.
is.
Yeah.
Just the universal pool of conscious, the blob.
Yeah.
The God blob that we're all tethered
God
to.
blob.
Yeah, I believe in the everything is connected.
Yeah.
Everything we are all, this all happened for a reason. Everything happens for a reason, and I believe that all is as it should be. And I know that's a crazy thing to hear in these crazy fucking times in this world that we're living in today, in 2020, and whatever today's date is. I have no idea.
So very, very often the timing of things is precise and perfect.
I believe in the purposefulness.
If not in the inherent purpose, then people should believe at least that you give things purpose. You know, you give things meaning. Like,
Absolutely.
I can draw a W on the paper right now. That W doesn't mean shit. Like, in the grand scheme
looks
of,
like an M to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Exactly.
Wisconsin to me.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of everything, so you show this W to the other side of the universe, that means nothing until they tell you what that means. And that's only a W because we agree that that's a W. Or if it's the
You need to
correct
learn
way.
how to draw better snakes, bro.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. My point exactly.
It's a lightning bolt.
But I think
Hey.
I think more people need to hone in
Wakion,
on
baby.
that. I think more people need to hone in on that. That like, look, I'm what's giving this universe meaning. I am the alpha and omega. I am basically turning this sea of particles and electrons into something meaningful and tangiable with my consciousness.
With intention. Dojo Ink is that, bro. That connectedness, and I believe that the people we will find each other, and I believe in what we're doing and what you guys are doing as well, and you guys are finding people, and it's going to continue to plug more people, and I'm greatly appreciative.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely, man. I'm down to however I can help propel you guys too, man. Please, you have but to ask.
Well, instead of asking, one of the things I wanted to talk about before we let you guys go, because we're about at that point where we can start winding it down. But one of the things I really wanted to impart with you guys, since you are starting, you're starting Dojo Ink, you're starting Mellow and Yellow. It's like, so the way that digital media is nowadays, basically anything that you put out there is a funnel. It's a potential way to catch people. Like, you put out a funnel. Like, I started thinking about this as a musician. If I make a song, that's a funnel. If I make a posting on social media, that's another funnel. A lot of people, they'll make the thing and then call it a day. The thing is you need to extrapolate as many funnels as you can with the things that you can. And you can absolutely delegate this process, but it's something that you need to be thinking about. So, for instance, what we're doing is we're recording the podcast. That's one funnel. We're recording the video. This is going on YouTube. That's another funnel. We go through the videos and we find nice little clips. Yeah. We cut those out. We put them on Instagram. That's another funnel.
Write a blog about some of the episode content or some of the impact that was had.
Exactly. Every single episode, we write a blog, and the blog serves two purposes. The blog is not only a place where the entire
is that on the Forging Flame as well?
forgingflame.com.
website.
All right,
Yep.
I'm gonna. I tried to get on there, and I was like, God damn it, what's the name of that thing? I couldn't find it. I was like, I can't. My pride is too heavy. I can't ask. But then it came back to me.
Yeah. So there's a blog for every single episode, and blogging is is important because when we're talking about the episode, we're putting keywords up there. I mean, and not in like a gross like reverse engineering way, but I mean, when we're talking about it, it's inevitably going to hit things that people will inevitably find.
Got to diversify.
And we keep doing this. We hit as many different angles and put it in. So with one episode, we could essentially get 7 or 8 funnels. Yeah. And it's mostly effortless.
Yeah. Because once you've completed the product, it's and also back to Dojo Ink, and in that regard is that I'm attacking it on all fronts, especially the dyslexia thing. Like I hope to have a website, publish the poems, much like you guys are doing your own thing, and it's very inspirational. You guys inspire me, and that's the greatest compliment I believe you can give to anybody.
Feels good,
man, doesn't it? I hope to inspire as well. But I hope to be able to, I want to do a documentary on the dyslexia aspect and also the poems too, because my poetry style, so back into the creative process, is I write in a very interesting manner, to say the least. But it requires a significant amount of decoding. So the point of the writing, the way my writing style is to put it in a flow in a minimal amount of words. Kidding. Now that's just the text, but in the poetry it's a little different, slightly differently formatted, but it requires you to pause. So my theory on it is that the dyslexic mind will be able to decode this easier and quicker and take the information away easier and more efficiently. The flip side of that, what I've learned and why I text this way too, as kind of a social experiment, it kind of started out, and what I found is some people, they refuse to read it. And so in the art of the backwards way, it's very intriguing to me because in school, for me as a young budding dyslexic, they're like, you're lazy. You're just not, you just don't want to read it. You just don't want to do the work. And I'm like, no, I refuse now. And so now the way I write, there's certain people, they refuse. They will not read it. They're like, no, it's too much. I can't understand it. I'm like, well, if you can't decode it, then you can't have the information because you're being lazy.
You could also argue that it's not fair of you to put them in your box.
Indeed. Ooh. But I'm putting them outside of the box.
Yeah. I mean, everything kind of exists on a spectrum, right? So it does make sense that, there very well may be for someone who is might be like just the archetypal fit into that like industrialized, like, shitty
Absolutely.
box that we all hate so fucking much. But that perfect person very well might just have a cognitive issue with processing that information in the way that you deliver it.
Absolutely. So, and I'm okay with that. And because that's a part of the awareness.
Get a taste of how it feels,
exactly.
bitch.
Get your own medicine, mother truckers. But for instance, I'll share a story. I met this couple and I started talking. They asked me what I did, and I was just like, well, he told me that he drew, and I was like, I have to know you, bro. Like, you got to share your work with me. And he was like, well, you got to share something. I was like, man, I'm a poet, so I showed him, one of the poems. I let him read one, right? And he was like, man, he wouldn't even read it. He was just like, he's like, man, this isn't poetry. Like, poetry's supposed to make you feel. It's supposed to hit you in your feels. He's like, this is like, is it a gimmick? Is it a gimmick? And I said, man, I can appreciate that perspective. And to some degree, yes, but no, there's actual, take the time to decode it and you'll understand. So he's like, nah, like poetry's supposed to make you feel. And I said, dude, you haven't even read one of my poems and it's making you feel something right now. So I'm the most powerful poet of all time already. Now, and then the other thing, like, so his girlfriend, she's like, oh, I want it. So she's like, I want to read one. So I'll read this one. I started picking one. I was like, all right. I was like, oh, this one, you don't have kids. And she's like, no, I do have a kid. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, all right. I was like, this is written for you. It's a very simple poem. It's 6 lines. And she reads this poem. It's titled Pick Up Your Toys. And I'll send it to you and you can post it up there if you want to. 6 simple lines. And she reads this and she just starts crying. Like this tear comes out, right? And because it's such a simple but impactful message. And I'll read it if you want. But he looks at me and he goes, because I had been saying, well, I got food that I'm trying to eat. I got some spaghetti. And like, as soon as this happens, she's like, and he goes, man, just go ahead and go eat your spaghetti, man. I was like, all right, bro. So it just, but let me see if airplane mode will allow me to pull it up.
Drop it.
Drop it like it's hot. But this message is important to me. We talked about it earlier, so it was so important to me that I felt the need to write a poem about it. So, pick up your toys. The greatest lesson, they must do it by themselves, but not alone. Be their guide, not their cleaner. And it was important. It's important to me because I spoke about my son's mother. If I wasn't there to balance her out and to provide the discipline that I do with my sons, she would pick up their toys because she's not interested in. She wasn't. She is now. She's very good. But she had to discipline herself to discipline them, and that's difficult. Because she wanted it done now, and it's a lot of trouble as you maybe were trying to get them to do anything. So
Can be.
I appreciate you allowing me to share.
Thanks for
My pleasure.
dropping it on us, man. Yeah. And before we get too deep in, I would like baby Nick Mellow to hop on the mic and just
DJ Burning Bush.
is that a reference
up?
to the
What's up,
gingerism?
Nick?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, get him set up here.
Absolutely. I'm gonna break it. No,
Tell us
absolutely.
tell us who you are and what you're all about, baby Nick.
What you about?
I'm a 20-year-old fat kid.
Respect.
Who's got nothing else better to do.
White privilege.
No, I just I'm like Joey in that I read people. I'm a people person.
He's very observant.
Yeah. My love language is touch. So I like, I'll give you a hug, give you a fist bump, whatever you want. So yeah, I mean, I'm just with the flow. I'm mellow. He's yellow. That's about it.
Nice.
Right on. All right. Do you do anything to make ducats these days? You got a jobby job? What do you do for a living?
Yeah, I work in retail with this good old boy.
Okay.
Nice.
Trying to make that dough for a little bit.
Sure. Before the media empire launches.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has ambitions to become the next Chris Farley. That's his passion in life.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's fat man in a little coat, and
Yeah, you're
about it.
You're gonna have to way step up the crazy. Then.
Yeah, I know. Gotta do some coke or something,
Yeah, gotta do.
Well, as long as you're doing the heroin
mellow,
too.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to balance it out with the heroin and with the screaming.
Yeah, but then I get all the models, right?
Yeah.
He got all the models, man.
Exactly.
The guy with the coke always gets the models.
I know, right? You just gotta be big, fat, and have coke.
I'll say this about Baby Nick. He shared with me something about Chris Farley and that he was what was it?
So I watched a documentary on Chris Farley, like it was after he died, and his family was like talking about him, and they said that his like philosophy or like his moral in life was to treat everybody like he was like meeting Jesus for the first time. So I kind of go at it like that. Like, I don't care who you are. I'm gonna be gung ho meeting you. Like, who are you? Like, I don't care if you killed somebody. I don't care what you did. Like, let's go for it.
He's high on trait openness.
Well, I do love hearing that, and as a fellow Nick, it's worth mentioning that one of my biggest inspirations as a very young person was Chris Farley through Saturday Night Live. I very much responded to his charisma, his successful fat guyness.
Yeah,
I mean, pretty much his everything.
Everything was just off the top.
Yeah.
Like the documentary I watched was literally the SNL skits he did. Like none of it like he did was like off the card. It was like he did a lot of coke and then was like, I'm going in this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like the Matt Foley one, that was pretty much just off top of the head.
Live in a
Like,
van down by the river.
I've watched that so many times. I think the first time I watched it I was like 8. Like my dad, we'd go to
Got to get back on the right track.
He's like, is that Bill Shakespeare over there? You don't use your paper for writing, but for rolling doobies. But yeah, no, we would go on vacations and drive to like Illinois to see some grandparents. And my dad would just have like 3 movies he'd give us, and it was Saturday Night Best of Chris Farley, Adam Sandler, and then Will Ferrell. So I've watched all of those 100 times. Like those 3 guys made your boy.
I'm into it. I very, very much relate to that.
I know I brought everybody down with the sexual abuse and my dumbass illiterate poetry, but we do hope to bring some of this lighthearted, nonsensical humor into the world as well. So
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you're both. I mean, meeting you both for the very first time. I know Ryan, has at least met Joey before, but meeting you both for the first time, you're definitely some pretty. I don't know. I don't
Give it to a straight doctor.
I don't want to sound like I'm coming on to you or
Please don't
anything, but
sugarcoat.
you're definitely both like very charismatic and easy to talk to guys. Yeah. And I'm personally, whatever it is, even if it's neither of these things, like I'm excited to see what you guys do for the future because
I'm just with it. He's got more of the brain, think of stuff like what to do. Like last night we were trying to record and shit happened. And he was mentioning like we got to do a podcast just like watching music videos and talking about it. Like we spent 2 hours listening to like all these random ass songs.
unfortunately, we didn't record it, but that was some hilarious shit going
It
down.
was the best. Yeah, I loved it. But I mean,
We haven't come up with a name, so if you want to put something up, people want to throw some names for our music video, like Mystery Science Theater style. We need a name for that podcast. We still on that creative tip right now too.
yeah, definitely.
something like like Beavis and Butthead meets I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
It's new. It's us.
Some like trippy equivalent. Like. Nah, I give up.
Yeah. But I mean, another thing like about me is like music's everything to me. Like I speak through music. Like that's what he noticed about me first was like when my flow state, I guess, would be listening to like old songs that like, because like I was born in 1999.
This fucking 20-year has the most diverse, strange bucket of music. It's weird.
I was in
it's so weird.
7th grade when Chris Farley died.
Wow.
What year was that?
It was in 96, I think.
I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah.
See that? Yeah, that's what it is. But
I wept so hard when Chris Farley died, when Phil Hartman died, and when Tupac died. I cried.
I like
There's my
love
poem,
Tupac.
Joey.
thrown in there. I love it.
Tupac's great. Tupac's amazing.
Yeah, but music is that beautiful thing. It has this ability to just. I love people who are able to capture these feelings, and it blows me away.
My favorite favorite is when like you can tell the musician's in it.
Man,
You know what I mean? Like
there.
that's when I know. Like I don't care if it sounds the best, but like if they're feeling it, it's gonna sound the best to me. Like.
Man,
We found this band. What was it? The Teskey Brothers.
Yeah.
This man's voice. I don't know if you put something on, but like, we probably can't.
That would be illegal.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, but still, like this dude's voice, I've never heard anything like it, and he's from Australia.
Yeah.
Sounds like this old black
Dude,
it's
kinda
awesome.
Like an old deep blues.
so
You
raspy.
can tell they definitely have some roots in like some old R&B stuff. Yeah, it's
I'll have
nice.
to check it out. Teskey Brothers
Teskey Brothers,
The
Teskey Teskey Brothers,
on it.
out of Australia.
Get after it.
Indeed.
Well, fellas, let's pose for this photo real quick. And I don't know if I'm taking it. Is that it? Yeah.
I think so.
Well, I think now's probably as good a time as any to wrap it on up and get our setup here torn down and
It's editing time.
get home to our beds or
To our children's.
whatever we're doing. Yeah, definitely to them. They better be asleep though. Yeah.
Yeah,
oh, shit,
I just
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely,
Him on,
absolute pleasure, and I hope to come back sometime once we actually get some things going and discuss it from that perspective. And I appreciate all the wisdom y'all dropped on us as well.
I mean, and likewise, I feel like the conversation that we had here tonight was definitely one that is full of potential for inspiration or just knowledge for people. We definitely went some interesting directions that may
I can't help
incite
myself.
feelings or opinions.
Hey, feelings are important. Opinions. Keep
Yeah.
them to yourself, though.
Whatever.
Hold everything in.
Say what you want. I don't
Absolutely,
care.
man. Have your feelings. Just let's do it appropriately.
Yeah, but thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
It's been
My
a
pleasure.
good one.
Hey, real quick before get out of here. So you did mention that you are actively recruiting and seeking out creatives and stuff, but at the same time, fuck social media. Get that? I recently just took Facebook off of my phone. Super smart move. That was great.
I support you in that 100%, bro. Disconnect.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm still connected. I'm still on it, and I kind of have to be because of the business side of things.
And I completely appreciate it's the most powerful marketing tool available. It's crazy, but I can't be party to it because I'm like I said, I can go in any direction on any subject matter, and I can't deal with it.
Yeah, respect. But these people need to get in contact with you. So how can they contact you? Because you currently, these projects are just starting. So I imagine you don't have like a website yet.
But I don't have a website yet, but I do have an email address that I set up. It's Dojo Ink, DOJOINK 999 at outlook.com. You can sling anything at me. If especially like creative people.
That was where my wife.
I'm all right. Send a bunch of dick pics.
Absolutely.
Don't. Right? Don't
duck pics.
Don't
draw
pics.
just drawings of ducks.
Yes.
Only
drawings of samurai ducks.
But yeah, this is
a penis in a samurai helmet. No,
with a fucking bill. Your rim is weird, bro. Your Corona is strange. Oh, you're not allowed to say Corona these days, right?
Welcome back to Rimmed. All right. It's our new prank show.
Rim McQuackins.
Where you get a surprise rim job.
Ooh. How wet is it? And
starring Nick Henson.
Talk about hitting in the feelings.
It's a wet ass.
Wet ass booties.
Jesus, this has gone.
It's
right into the fucking garbage.
Absolutely. Just delete. We'll never find anyone. Just put my email address out somewhere. You don't have to release.
No, that's cool. That's what I wanted.
Great.
I just want these people to be able to
absolutely.
Get in touch
I appreciate
with you.
that. Thank you.
If there's any type of artists out there, he needs artists. He's making a graphic novel type thing, but also if you're a musician, if you're a web designer, if you just want to take part in something and you need somebody to kind of feed you ideas and put that into action, into something meaningful and awesome, definitely get a hold of Joey Turner and drop your email one more time.
Dojo Ink 999 at outlook.com.
Boom.
Booyah.
That's it.
Episode 14. We out.
Good night.
Thank you guys.
Bye-bye.